Rabbi and Chana Vigler. I'm Rabbi Dovid Vigler. Both of us are the founders and co-directors of the Chabad Palm Beach Gardens, where you'll find traditional Jewish values for contemporary Jews just like you. Learn about us online at jewishgardens.com. Join us every morning, every weekday morning, for chiropractic soul adjustment. Every weekday morning, 8:30 a.m. on facebook.com/Jewish Gardens and at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens.
Yes, it is so nice to be here in the studio today, having a nice conversation with the Rabbi, my husband. We like to have fun with this. And today we're really thinking about how people are really coming to it's very interesting how people who never consider themselves spiritual or religious in any way are really, throughout this whole quarantine situation and with this pandemic that's going on around us, people are really starting to feel spiritual. And they're really asking interesting questions, thinking about the more spiritual aspect in all of this, and where is God in all of this. And it's just very, very interesting to see how people that never thought of it before are now really starting to have this conversation. And we thought we would just kind of talk about that a little bit.
They're calling it the Great Spiritual Awakening. It's fascinating how people are coming out of the woodworks, people that we've tried to engage with spiritually for years already. Now suddenly they're studying with us, they're talking to us, they're asking questions. There's something very beautiful going on, as probably because a lot of people are at the end of their rope. They realize there's no vaccine. They realize that they have no idea when. There's no end in sight. We're not sure if the light at the end of this tunnel is the oncoming train. When when we realize that these masks aren't going away anytime soon. We're not even sure if our schools are opening up in the fall, friends.
Right.
In the fall. I'm so sorry to say that. That is a terrifying thought. First, we were worried about this last semester. Then we were worrying about the summer camps. Now it's the fall that is up in question. And this is a really terrifying thought. So when you realize that we don't know where this is going. We have no one else to turn to but to God. And we're forced to reevaluate our relationship with God, which is very timely because of the Jewish holiday coming up, the festival of Shavuos, which commemorates us becoming the chosen people 3,332 years ago.
And receiving the Torah.
So I think that a lot of people really want to have a genuine relationship with God. They want to be spiritual, but they have a profound sense of discomfort with that.
Yeah, I think they feel like fakes. They feel like hypocrites. They say, if I'm not really religious, if I'm not really spiritual, then why should I do a mitzvah if I don't really feel it, if I don't really mean it? They kind of have this discomfort, or I want to say love-hate relationship with it, where they would really love to become more spiritual, become a little bit more connected, but they're not quite sure about going about that.
So what do we tell these people? I mean, we have some very well-intentioned people that, maybe they don't keep kosher, they don't keep Shabbos, they don't lay tefillin, and they say, Rabbi, Rebbitzin, why should I light Shabbos candles? What's it worth? Isn't it insulting to God for me to do just one mitzvah when I'm violating all of the rest?
Yeah, and then sometimes it's not so easy to do a mitzvah either. Sometimes you're just not, you're not feeling it, you're not feeling spiritual, and you're not really in the mood either. And why should I actually, is it actually going to mean anything? Is it actually going to matter? Is my mitzvah actually going to matter? And I think that in general, the answer to that is really that even if you're not quite feeling it, go ahead and do it. Do that one mitzvah. Do something, because you will see that one mitzvah, that one spiritual act, will awaken that little spark inside you that's been sleeping for a while, and you'll realize, hey, I didn't even know that I had this. I didn't even know how good this feels, and it'll make you want to do some more.
So you're saying you've got an organic connection with God, which you need to nurture. You need to dig a little, just like when you're digging for diamonds or for oil or something. You got to go through some schmutz before you can find the treasure that you're looking for. You're saying that when it comes to our relationship with God, to our spiritual growth, that sometimes you need to just stay the course. You need to just go through the motions, is what you're saying, because ultimately it will become meaningful. I think that a really good way to explain this is what I tell a lot of people that are going through marriage problems. I say, if you're not feeling the magic in your relationship right now, if you're not feeling in love right now, then go out and buy your wife a huge bouquet of flowers. Write her a romantic note. Or cook him his favorite dinner. Show your spouse, do something special. And even though I counsel these people, I say, look, even though it's insincere, I know it's insincere because you really are feeling numb.
Right.
You're feeling romantically numb. It's just not there. But what's the amazing thing is that when you start to do this, right, suddenly it starts to feel good. You just sort of like...
When you see the reaction and when you see how appreciated it is, then you just feel like, oh, wow, this was awesome. I want to do this again. That was worth it. And you end up getting more than you're giving, right?
And the reason for that is because with your spouse, you're organically connected. There's your soul and your spouse's soul, which are two parts of the same soul. And there's the schmutz, there's the daily grind, which distracts that organic connection, so that when you do something nice for each other, you're penetrating through to the essence connection that you have with each other. And the same truth applies to our relationship with God. I mean, who we are, our identity is our soul. It's our consciousness. That's our soul. It's who we are. It's a piece of God. So our connection to God is also organic. So even though we might not feel the love, we might not feel this open connection, this inspired, passionate connection with God all the time, if we just go through the motions.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like going through the motions. Sometimes we feel like it's completely disingenuous. We really don't mean it. We really don't feel it. And we really feel like a fake. And it feels very difficult to do. Why should I do this if this just feels so silly to me? Then we realize that the more we do it, the more we enjoy it, and the more it feels right, and it actually feels good, and you just want to keep doing more of it.
So what do we tell someone that wants to donate to the synagogue only in order to be on the donor wall?
Right, and I think often people will have that question. People will say like, oh, they just they just donated to have the building named after them, or to have, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. To us, we just look at every good deed as what was done. We look at the deed and appreciate the deed. It's not so much about, did they mean it? How did they mean it? What did they do before? What did they do after? Or everything between, everything that transpired in their lifetime before or after is completely irrelevant. The fact that they did the deed is all that matters. And, and I've often heard people that come on Yom Kippur and that say, oh, I feel like a fake Jew, or I feel like I don't belong here because I actually didn't fast, or because I did who knows what last week, or because, and that's completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you did last week. It doesn't matter what you did this morning. It doesn't matter what you're going to do tomorrow. What matters is this moment. What matters is right now and what you're going to do with it. Are you going to take this opportunity to do something spiritual, something holy, something that will uplift you and enrich your life, or not?
Chana, the Torah tells us that anytime we are drawn towards depression or sadness, that is the work of our evil impulse, of our animal soul.
I believe that.
Each and every one of us has a godly soul and an animal soul. We have an inclination for good and an inclination for evil. Joy is the prime motivator, and sadness is the prime demotivator. Our sages tell us in the Torah that the most powerful tool of our evil impulse is sadness. He will find every reason, and very convincing and compelling reasons, to explain to us why we shouldn't be feeling good about ourselves. When we start to feel guilty, when we start to feel shame, when we feel insincere, disingenuous, or what we call imposter syndrome, like we feel that we don't deserve to be where we are.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to understand that is the workings of our evil inclination. It is merely a test to distract us from what we really need to be doing. And the moment that it dawns upon us, the moment that we realize that that is the work of the evil inclination, that every good deed is worthy in and of itself, every positive gesture to your spouse, every random act of goodness and kindness to a stranger or to someone you love or to God is worthy in and of itself, notwithstanding what you did previously and notwithstanding what you're going to do afterwards. When you realize that the value of each individual gesture, right, and you don't allow yourself to become sad or melancholy or depressed by being conscious of the fact that it's the evil inclination, evil impulse that is trying to pull us away from what we need to be doing. It's merely a test. I think that puts things into the right focus and helps us do what we need to be doing.
Yeah, and I think that actually when we do something, when we are feeling that way, when we are feeling down, when we are feeling depressed, when we're feeling a bit sad, and we actually push ourselves to do something good or to do a mitzvah, to light those Shabbos candles, to study a little bit of Torah, to take out a Tehillim, say some Psalms in whatever language you're comfortable with, it actually helps you get out of that melancholy. It actually helps you, it actually brings that spark back. It actually brings you, makes you feel alive. It helps you feel better. And slowly, even if you weren't quite feeling it, you actually come out of that dark place and it helps you see the light.
So you just tuned in. You're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin here. It's Rebbitzin Chana. I'm Rabbi Dovid Vigler. We're married, and we are having a candid conversation. We're just chatting about the current affairs, about our relationship with God, our spiritual awakening that a lot of people are experiencing through this quarantine. We're talking about the Jewish holiday of Shavuos, when God chose us as a nation, when we formed our bond with God, unbreakable connection 3,322 years ago. And we're talking about being a hypocrite or feeling like a hypocrite. If you don't do all the mitzvahs, let's say, can you be a good Jew? Is your mitzvah worth anything if you don't do the others? If you can't keep one mitzvah, does that mean that none of the other mitzvahs are even worth a try? You know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is that I think that a lot of people see it as a point system. Like, I'm getting a point here, I had a point taken away, or like, and really not how it works. Each mitzvah is a universe on its own, and it needs to be seen that way. And each good deed that we do, and each holy word that we utter, and each spiritual energy we bring into our homes and into our lives stand on its own to help us in that moment and in our lives, and help us to infuse our lives with that spirituality, and notwithstanding anything else that may have happened.
You know, there's this great saying by the Kotzker Rebbe, I believe it was the Kotzker Rebbe, who said that the enemy of good is not bad.
Right.
The enemy of good is perfect, because it's our evil impulse. It's the Satan within us that tries to lead us astray from our purpose and our mission and our destiny, who tries to convince us that if I can't be perfect, then I'm not going to do anything. My efforts are useless or worthless if I can't be 100%. And that is wrong. That's why perfect is the enemy of good. You see, in our realization that we'll never be perfect, we don't even try to be good.
Right.
But bad is actually a motivator to be good, because when you realize that you're bad, then you say, okay, I feel bad. I want to become good. But it's this mirage of perfection, which can most often lead us astray. Chana, I just want to ask you a question. See, you're saying that a lot of people struggle with feeling hypocritical in their relationship with God. Do you think people feel hypocritical in their relationships with their marriages, with their spouses?
Sometimes I think they do. Sometimes I think that if they're not in such a good place with their spouse, or even with their children, you know, I feel like sometimes people feel like a child's not such a great person. My child only wants a relationship with me to be in the will. We hear that a lot. My child only calls me when they need something, right? They don't call me to see how I'm doing. So is that a bad thing? Or are we just going to see it as, you know what, if your child called you, be happy that they called you, right? Are you going to start measuring what they said and how they said and when they said, and if that's good? You know, I think that we do often see our relationships that way. We see our friends that way. And are they using me as a friend, or do they really care about me as a friend, right? People say that. So am I going to do something back for them? Am I going to give something in return when they really don't care about me? So I think often people will feel a little uncomfortable in relationships in that way, when they feel like we're not really soul friends. We're really just friends because, they have a purpose for me, or they don't have a purpose for me, or if I have a purpose for them. But I think that it's important for us to realize, just like with each mitzvah, that each person has a soul, and that each person is inherently special and good, and we have relationships with them because of that, because they are who they are. And even if they didn't do anything, even if they didn't call you for your birthday, and even if they didn't, do anything that specifically you liked, it doesn't matter. That's not why we love them. That's not why we're friends with them. Not because of what they do for us, not because of how good they make us feel, but rather because of who they are as a person, or because they are our child, because we gave birth to them, or because they are our parent, or because they are our spouse, and we are committed to them. So I think that that's how we have to view our relationships, in terms of who the person is and why we love them for who they are, as opposed to what they do.
But Chana, do you think that if somebody falls out of love, if somebody's like not feeling the magic, do you think they should like be brutally honest with their spouse about that? Or should they be hypocritical and then disingenuous by doing loving acts and saying loving words when they don't really mean it?
Look, I think that when people think that they fell out of love, I'm not sure that they actually did. Maybe that's what they're thinking in their minds.
If they don't feel the love,
I think that that's what they're thinking in their minds. I don't think that that's an actuality. And I do think that, yes, that if they did loving things to their spouse, that they might feel disingenuous. They'll realize that it actually isn't disingenuous at all, because somewhere deep down, they actually really wanted to do it.
You're saying they're not digging deep enough.
They actually really still have that love down there, and it's not disingenuous at all, because
it seems
they want to do it. They really love
So
them.
You're saying that it's not disingenuous. When somebody falls out of love in a loving relationship, you're saying that it feels like they're out of love. It feels hypocritical to be nice to each other, or to say nice things, or to give gifts or whatever. But really, that's on a very superficial level. If they dug deeper, that's where they'd realize that the love is alive and well.
Right. So at first, they might be doing something nice for the other person, thinking that, I'm being a fake, or I really don't love them, or I really don't care, and I'm just doing this from the goodness of my heart, right? But really, after they do it, and they realize that, oh wow, that felt pretty good to do that,
and we see that all the time. We see it in relationships. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. But I think that that's actually the best way to rekindle that flame, but it just kind of tapered down a little bit. It just kind of, when the bonfire is just kind of crackling a little bit, sometimes that happens.
When you got the burning coals, it's a great example. The fire's alive and well in the coals.
But sometimes you just don't realize.
You need to fan the flames.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So in other words, Chana, we find that when you think you fell out of love, it's only on a superficial level, and you need to dig a well to be able to find the love, which is really down there. You're just not feeling it right now. And the way to do that, the Torah tells us, I think you mentioned it earlier, is that you got to fake it until you make it.
Right, absolutely.
By actually saying things which feel disingenuous and doing things which feel disingenuous. They only feel disingenuous on a superficial level, but on a deeper level.
I think the key word here is that they feel disingenuous, but they really aren't. They just feel like it. We think they are. Right.
So in our counseling, what we do to married couples going through crisis is that we try to remind them of the love that is there. It's just dormant.
Right.
And that we try to help them reach that place by guiding them to respecting each other, and guiding them to lower the hostilities, to lower the defenses, and to allow each other effective communication, so that the organic love rises back to the surface. And exactly in the same way that you say that it is in a relationship, in a human relationship, and I don't think anybody, any marriage can always be in love. Be feeling, when I say love, I mean be feeling on top of the world all the time. We all have our mountains and our valleys, right?
There are better times and
Yeah, we're all human, right? I think the same way exactly applies in our relationship with God. You can't expect to always be inspired to oh my God, I want to pray right now. I want to lay tefillin. I can't wait to eat kosher food, right? That doesn't happen. Sometimes you feel inspired, and that's great. Maybe after an amazing sermon or something, right? But other times you're not feeling inspired. And what you need to do is to realize that the connection between you and God is organic, like it is between you and your spouse. Your soul is a piece of God. You are one and the same with God. And therefore, when you just do the deed, right, even if you don't feel the creed,
right.
then you're able to reawaken the organic bond, the essence bond, which right now is going through a little bit of it's a little unconscious, it's a little asleep,
right.
And you wake it up.
Right, and it feels fake, and it feels disingenuous, and it feels hypocritical. But again, there's that same key word, is that that's how it feels. But really, once you start doing it a few times, you realize that, you know what, that did feel good. And it only felt fake, but it really was still somewhere down there that I really did want to do it. And it feels great to have this relationship with God and to have this spirituality in my life and to bring in holiness into my home and into my day and to everything that I do.
So we'd like to encourage you, our friends and our listeners over here, we'd like to encourage you to do the following. If you can find the person in your life who you're not feeling so great about, try to see if you can reach out to them with an act of unconditional love.
Just something special.
Just do something with no strings attached, not because of what they did for you or didn't do for you or how they made you feel or how they didn't make you feel. Reach out to them with a genuine act of kindness and see if you can arouse the natural organic well. See what happens. It's going to be fascinating for you to discover that.
It's a fun experiment. But in addition, I think that now during quarantine, we're all home and we all have time on our hands and we're all ready to experiment without anybody knowing, just by ourselves at home. That it's a great opportunity. It's a great time to try a new mitzvah and see how it goes.
Even if you don't feel it.
Maybe you want to just light those Shabbos candles on Friday night. Maybe you want to have Shabbat in your house. You want to bake a challah. You don't want to bake a challah. You want to have some kiddush at home. Try to observe Shabbos a little bit. Try to, now is the easiest time than ever to attend a Torah class. Take your pick. There are so many online. It's so easy. You can study a little bit more of Torah. You can give $1 to tzedakah every single morning.
It's that simple.
No big deal.
And you don't have to feel like your soul's on fire in order to give $1 to charity or to join us for Torah study every weekday morning at 8:30 on Facebook.com/Jewish Gardens or YouTube.com/Jewish Gardens. Shameless plug over there. So you don't have to feel inspired in order to do a mitzvah like Torah study or charity or Shabbat or tefillin.
But what will happen
candles.
is that once you do one of those mitzvahs or you do choose to be a part of one of these Torah classes, you know what? You will feel inspired. It's going to inspire you. It's going to turn your soul on fire. And you're going to want to do another mitzvah. And you're going to want to come be a part of another Torah class.
Friends, in our marriages, in our relationships with God, we've got to fake it until we make it. We've got to do the deed, and later on comes the creed. First, you start doing the deed. And only afterwards you start to feel it, because somehow there's a tremendous blessing associated with the work of our hands. God blesses the work of our hands. When you say something nice to your wife or to your husband, even if you don't feel the love will rise up to the surface. And the same thing in our relationship with God. We do the mitzvah, we do the action, and after we do the action, we suddenly start to feel good about it, and that nurtures our ability to keep that cycle going and to do another mitzvah and another mitzvah. So that's our message here this morning about the relationship that we have with God. We're not hypocrites. We're not hypocrites. Even if you don't feel it, nobody feels inspired all the time. Not in our marriages, not in our relationship with God. Let's strive to keep on moving forward, to keep committed to the mission. Do one more mitzvah, even if you're not feeling inspired. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And as you do each good deed, each act of kindness, or a mitzvah to God, you'll see that the hearts will follow through. Thank you for joining us here this morning. We'll see you, God willing, for more candid conversation live with the Rabbi and Rebbitzin
Yes,
next
looking
week.
forward.
Please send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Post on our Facebook page or on our YouTube, or send us an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining us. Shalom, and have a great week. Okay, here's our Facebook friends. Nice to see everybody. I think we're off the radio right now, hopefully. So nice to see so many of our friends over here. Hanny, are you still there? Hanny, are you still with us on Facebook? Would love to hear from you. Susan.